I might be going on vacation in a few hours, but gaming news doesn't stop. And we're going to be taking a look at what could happen if Microsoft or the FTC wins the case that has been going on for a while. And Polygon has an article for us detailing the case and what would happen if the FTC wins or Microsoft wins. But before we get started, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that share, hit the subscribe button, and we will be launching something new for you guys when I return from vacation on July 14. Keep in mind I am still working on content for you guys to watch. And now let's get into today's story by Polygon. And Polygon writes this article: FTC versus the Microsoft Activision deal. What will you really need to know? The fate of the industry's biggest deal is now in the hands of a single judge. This is written by Owen S. Good on July 1st, 2023 at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The fate of Microsoft's bid to buy Activision, one of the first and oldest third-party publishers in console video game, now rests in the hands of a single person. The companies and the Federal Trade Commission (FTC) spent a week in federal court over the latter's request that a judge put a stop to the deal. Here we go. Testimony and closing arguments are now done. Since last Thursday, longtime fans of both Xbox and PlayStation have gotten glimpses of fast-paced hardball business world of platform holders and major publishers in video gaming. What happens now could not be a historic moment in video gaming. It could shape how millions play them for years to come. And this actually has some international implications, and we will take a look at that. And when it comes to the UK and England, we'll find out. We'll get into that later in this article. Let's continue. Here's what you really need to know about the past week, where matters are headed, and whether this mega deal will go through. Let's get started. What happens next in the Microsoft Activision FTC case? The judge in the Federal Trade Commission's case against Microsoft over its $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard is expected to rule before July 18 whether to block the deal. That's the closing date for the proposed buyout of the publisher of Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Overwatch. The FTC already filed a lawsuit back in December to block the deal. This hearing regards the government's request for a restraining order, stopping all merger activity and preventing it from closing. Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley granted that temporarily on June 13th. Her next choice is whether to make that permanent. The restraining order would stop the deal until the FTC's overall lawsuit against the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal is resolved. So it's not even close to being over, even after the ruling. This can go on for a while. So now we're going to find out what happens if Microsoft wins. What happens if the judge rules for Microsoft and Xbox? The acquisition will go forward, meaning they would merge, and the deal will become a lot harder for the FTC to unwind. The FTC would have to consider it would be worth the effort, as a ruling denying its motion would be seen as a vote of no confidence in its antitrust case. The case was brought under the FTC's own administrative law apparatus, an in-house court basically. So neither Corley nor her judicial district would be involved. Bigger picture, the two other majority bodies in the United Kingdom and the European Union have already passed judgment on the Microsoft Activision deal. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority moved to block it in April. The European Union approved it in May. Though these all three all act independently, two bodies agreeing might convince the third one to change its mind. Microsoft would always relocate the offices that it or Activision has in the United Kingdom if quarterly lets the deal go forward. So now we're going to see what happens if the FTC wins. If the FTC wins, then the deal does not close, and it seems likely that Microsoft would abandon it altogether, paying Activision a termination fee, which was going to be $3 billion. In addition to that penalty, Microsoft attorney Beth Wilkinson told the New York Times that a suit before the FTC's in-house court would be a, quote, 3-year administrative nightmare that would tank the deal altogether, regardless of its ruling. Now we get into the good stuff. So what we just found out is what happens if it's a win for Microsoft and Xbox or a win for the FTC. Basically, if Microsoft and Xbox win, then there will be a deal and they will be merging. Okay? But if the FTC wins, there is no deal, and the Activision has to pay a Microsoft has to pay an Activision termination fee of $3 billion. Okay? Now we're gonna get into the video gaming portion of this article, and this is where it gets nuts. So let's continue the article. If Microsoft wins, what games will be Xbox exclusive? This is another majority point of the article and of this case. So let's have a read. With Xbox Chief Financial Officer Tim Stewart on the stand Thursday, the FTC revealed a November 2021 email between him and Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty, in which the overall head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, decreed that all ZeniMax games henceforth would be an Xbox and PC exclusive. Quote, all games going forward, Stewart replied, quote, not just new IP, but all games going forward. Wow. End quote. So we can pretty much count that on the next Elder Scrolls game, which a Microsoft attorney may have let slip, is targeted for a 2026 launch, being Xbox and PC exclusive, though that has not been explicitly said yet. Xbox Game Studios consists of 22 studios, many of them already making Xbox exclusive titles like the Forza Motorsport or Gears of War series. Several of those studios were acquired back in 2018 when Microsoft picked up in Exile Entertainment, which is by Wasteland, Ninja Theory for Hellblade, and Obsidian Entertainment for The Outer Worlds. In Exile's next game, the action RPG Clockwork Revolution, is exclusive to Xbox. So is Obsidian's next game, Elworld, coming sometime next year. The article continues by saying, as for Call of Duty, Microsoft witnesses and attorneys repeatedly stressed the company's outreach to Sony Interactive Entertainment SIE with an already signed agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation at feature and content parity, quote, for at least several more years, end quote. In September, SIE boss Jim Ryan rejected the offer as, quote, inadequate, end quote. After this, Microsoft offered both Sony and, remarkably, Nintendo 10-year agreements to have Call of Duty at parity on their platforms. In the hearing over the past week, FTC attorney James Worthington extracted an under oath promise from Phil Spencer to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation platforms. Worthington even pressed Spencer further, asking him to make that promise no matter the terms Sony expected, but Corley, sounding impatient, told Worthington to move on to other questions. So now let's recap this section right here, as we always do. So now we know that ZeniMax games, if Microsoft wins, of course, will become an Xbox and PC exclusive titles on the Xbox Game Pass or PC if you guys play on PC. So if you guys like ZeniMax games, you hope for Microsoft to win. Okay, so it's all games moving forward, and Xbox has 22 studios that make games like Forza, Gears of War, and others like Ninja Theory and Obsidian Entertainment. So this could be huge if Microsoft wins. Then Call of Duty wise, it's going to stay on PlayStation because of the fact that the offer was rejected. Okay, so Microsoft gets no part of the PlayStation, of the COD in that case. Okay, and of course, because this is a court case, you want to keep the questions going. So that's why Warrington was told to move on by Corley, the judge. Now we're going to get into the portion where the predictions of who's going to win. Okay, and this is a big portion. Who's going to win, Microsoft versus FTC? Let's have a look. And there's another article that goes into this on IGN. We might look at that in today's other commentary for more insight. Who's going to win in Microsoft versus FTC? Observers, analysts, and pundits and the like have had a great time over the past week stacking up the claims and counterclaims made, and guessing at the general disposition of Coralie what she's heard. She alone will rule. This is not a jury matter. So in court, sometimes you have like a jury, but in this case, Coralie will do it herself. Whatever she says is the law. The FTC has focused almost entirely on console exclusive, as in the area in which Microsoft buying Activision harms the markets and consumers. Within that category, FTC lawyers have fixated on Call of Duty and what would happen if PlayStation owners lost access to it in the area of greatest harm. To this end, the government has made strong points when it revealed that Microsoft purchased ZeniMax Media, owner Bethesda Softworks, because it feared Starfield, launching this September, would become a PlayStation exclusive. Instead, Starfield is an Xbox and PC exclusive, like we have mentioned earlier. But emails and recorded testimony from Ryan, the president of SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, would seem to undercut that point. Ryan said he did not view the exclusivity of Bethesda's Redfall or even Starfield to be anti-competitive. Additionally, Ryan said in an email to a colleague, quote, "will be more than okay," end quote. He said, after discussions with Spencer and Activision boss Bobby Kotick, quote, "I'm pretty sure we will continue to see COD on PlayStation for many years," end quote. Coralie at times appeared to flummox the FTC lawyers with her questions during closing arguments. Coralie noted data from Microsoft expert witness economist Elizabeth Bailey, who appeared under stipulation from both sides, showing that 62% of PlayStation owners do not play COD at all. She also chided Warrington with a reminder that, quote, "it's not the harm to Sony we care about, it's harm to consumers," end quote. Microsoft and Activision representatives have made this a talking point over the past several months. Quote, "all this for a shooter video game," Coralie said later. Quote, "we're concerned about competition for this one shooter video game," end quote, end question. And that is the end of this article. But I'm going to tell you, this could have implementations for further for video game projects. So let's recap this. The FTC is relying on the focus of the console exclusives. So meaning they've been focusing on the games that are going to be exclusive on Xbox. If this deal goes through and currently would rule for Microsoft on this one, okay? And mostly they've been focusing on Call of Duty because Call of Duty right now is exclusive on PlayStation. That's why you don't see COD on Xbox as much, okay? And we also learned that during that portion that 62% of PlayStation owners, I am one of them by the way, do not even play Call of Duty. So that shows you that the exclusive part is going to be interesting to see where this goes. Okay. Now, to combat this, there is another article that we will discuss, and it's on IGN. That's going to be its own separate video because I want to analyze that in its own right. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you guys subscribe today because this video on the IGN article will come out later this afternoon. While I'm on vacation, I will be checking in with these articles because this could be the hugest gaming case of 2023. I am so happy to be proud to be covering this as part of this channel. And we will see you guys in the next article reading later this afternoon, talking about the IGN portion of this article, talking about will Xbox win? We have to see that. We'll see you guys in the next article. And today's question of the day: who's gonna win, FTC or Microsoft / Activision? Let me know in the comments below. I've been interested in this case. We'll see you guys soon.